Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and I am a flower farmer in East Yorkshire in the UK, and I am so busy at the moment getting the field and the flower farm ready for the season ahead. Yesterday we had a really busy day. I had a helper and we managed to prepare these two beds behind me. We weeded them, we pulled the weed membrane up, we weeded them. I just went over them slightly with the fork just to loosen up some of the soil because it was pretty dry and cracked, particularly in this bed. So then we went and added some fish blood and bone to the top, and then we planted out 130 stalks in this bed here. And the plants are quite small, so I'm hoping they're going to be okay in here. But I'm going to mollycoddle them and hopefully they'll be okay. And what I'm doing today is I'm going to be planting, I think I've got about 180 snapdragons just to go in that bed there. The other thing I really wanted to talk to you about this week is that I've found myself in this rabbit hole of interesting stuff lately, mainly because I've been listening to the No-Till Flowers podcast on Spotify, and it's just opened up so many new things to me, and things that I sort of knew about already but I haven't really researched before now. And mainly it's about regenerative farming and really taking care of the soil health rather than just looking at the plant, which I kind of knew already that it was important to take care of the soil, obviously, and I try to do no dig practices. But what I've learnt from Jenny from Love and Fresh Flowers, who does the No-Till podcast, is that you can't just start doing no dig and expect miracles to happen and your soil is suddenly going to become really perfect. So the podcast has really made me think that October 2019, so not even last year, the year before, I had a soil test done on this field here. And it was before I put the first batch of compost on it. And this is so bad of me, but I totally just disregarded that soil test and I just forgot about it and put it into the back of my mind. And I didn't really think about it until I started listening to this podcast again. So I revisited my soil test results that I got back from Progreen. I will link Progreen in the description down below if you want to have a soil test done with them. I'm sure there's other companies out there, but that is just the one that I used. And it turns out I've got really alkaline soil in this field here, and the pH is 7.8, so it's quite alkaline, and the optimum pH for growing flowers is about 6.5. So I really need to amend that. Having a pH that is too alkaline will lock out nutrients to the plant, so the plant is less able to take up nitrogen and other elements, for example. So basically I've just got into this just absolute rabbit hole of all these interesting things about soil microbiology and working with the soil food webs and everything. And where are my books? Oh, here they are. I ordered some really interesting books yesterday on Amazon. They came yesterday from Amazon, and I've got this one, Teeming with Fungi and Teeming with Microbes by Jeff Lowenfels and Wayne Lewis. And the other one that I have is the Regenerative Grower's Guide to Garden Amendments. And I just think I haven't started reading these yet, but I did sort of start digging into this book a little bit last night, and I'm literally on page 30 and I've learned so much already that I didn't know about already. So basically one of the most interesting things that I learned about in the first few pages of this book was that systems are either bacterially dominated or fungi dominated. So bacterially dominated soils apparently have a more alkaline environment because of the bioslime that bacteria produce. So gardeners want to be able to create a equal amount of bacteria and fungi within the soils to try and create a balanced atmosphere so that the plants that like bacterially dominated environments can get what they need, and the plants that like the fungi dominated environments can get what they need. So it's all just so interesting, and I just wanted to tell you all about it. So I highly recommend listening to the No-Till Flowers podcast. These books are also really interesting, and Bear Mountain Farm was actually the first guest on the No-Till Flowers podcast, and he's just so intelligent and knows so much about all these different practices about Korean natural farming and those kind of things. So if you want to give it a go at researching it yourself, then I definitely recommend trying these things out that I've tried out in the last couple of days. So this is going to be a long process, learning all about soil microbes and soil health. So I'm hoping that I can take you along with me on that journey as well. And the other thing that's cool that is I'm going to do today is collect something really cool that I found on Gumtree last night. So I'll take you with me when I go and collect that. But for now, I'm just going to go and start planting out those snapdragons. A few of you said you were interested in seeing what goes on when you pinch snapdragons as well. So I just thought I would show you quickly. I have pinched some of these snapdragons, but not all of them. So I might do some of them today. I might wait a little bit longer. But I'll show you one that I've pinched now. I'm just going to have to turn the camera around to show you. So you can see where I've pinched it, and then you can see where the new side shoots have come from the leaf nodes below. And then if you look at this plant here, you can see I haven't pinched this one, but this one has got two side shoots growing from it. So what I would do is just take my thumbnail and just press it against my finger, and then take off that top shoot that's growing, and those two side shoots should grow nice and strong. I actually probably could have taken it down to there. So I'll do the same with this one, this one, this one, and this little one. And then the side shoots will grow nice and strong, and we'll get lots more flowers from those snapdragons. There's lots of varieties of flowers that you can do that with, but then there's also some varieties that you can't do that with. So for instance, these stocks that I planted out yesterday, they are a one-hit wonder, and they only produce one stem per plant. So if I pinched those, I would end up with no flowers at all. So make sure you do your research about what plants can be pinched and what can't before you start pinching everything. So I've got my snapdragons planted out behind me. So what I need to do in here before it gets too late, which is usually what always happens, is I need to get some supports put in for plant netting. So I've got some stakes somewhere that I used in my other flower field that I think possibly 1 by 2 wood. And what I want to do is cut some spikes into the bottom of those stakes, and then I can bash them into the ground behind me, and that will support some plant netting. That's something that I've really been bad at in the past, and this year I want to provide plant supports for everything that I grow, because if the wind knocks something over and it hasn't got straight stems, it's just such a shame when the plant doesn't, well, you can't cut the flowers off the plant because they're not straight stems. So I'm hoping this year to really work on making sure everything is supported, so that we have nice long straight stems. So that is, the polytunnel is at its max capacity now, so until the ranunculus have flowered and I'm pulling them out, I haven't got any space for anything else. So I think when these ranunculus are finished flowering, I'm going to replace them with zinnias, more stalks, some phlox, which I actually need to sow more of, and not sure what else just yet. I really want to grow some celosia this year, but I haven't had much success with germination on the saved seeds that I had from my friend's flower farm. So I started those off in soil blocks, and maybe like 10% of the seeds have actually germinated, so I might just try sowing them in a seed tray just to see whether they'll germinate that way, and if not, maybe I'll have to buy some seeds from a supplier just to see whether it's that's maybe it's the way that I've stored them hasn't been good or something. So yeah, it's lunchtime now, so I will catch you after lunch with whatever I'm going to be up to this afternoon. So at lunchtime I was doing a little bit of a Google about plant support netting, and quite a lot of people suggested stock fencing, and we've got loads of it in the workshop. So it's a little bit narrow, which is the only thing. I think it's only about 1 metre wide.
Worst roll as well.
Apparently I picked the worst roll. That'll be fine. And then I've got these stakes that I was talking about, so hopefully we can put some sharp points on them and put them into the ground, and then put this netting onto it, and it will support the plant babies. So I've got so much going on today. I've just got back from making my purchase from Gumtree, and here it is. I've got a couple of soil blockers, some very old ones. The guy said that they belonged to his dad, and he used to be a market gardener. So it looks like I've got one that makes 12 blocks and one that makes 9 blocks, and they look like about the same size. So I'm gonna have to have a play with these and see whether I think they'll come in handy. I mean, I feel like even if they don't come in handy, they're just cool, aren't they? So they were £15 for the pair. Maybe I got ripped off, I don't know. But I'm sure they'll come in handy at some point, because even with things like sunflower seeds, the gourds that I sometimes grow, they could do to go into big blocks, which will then just get planted straight out into the field. So that's really handy. At the moment I've got the irrigation on in here because obviously I've planted things out, but when I plant things out, sometimes I like to water them with the hose pipe, just because I feel like the irrigation sometimes doesn't get to the root zone of the plant, which is freshly planted out, which is literally a few centimetres under the soil. So I've got the irrigation on mainly because I'm trying to just soften up the paths where I am going to be knocking in those stakes for the stock fencing that I'm going to use as a plant support. That went in a lot easier than I thought it would. So I've got 6 stakes in, but I think I'm going to have to put more in. I've got 2 at either end, and then I've got a set in the middle. I've tried to put these ones, I've put these in some empty holes in the weed membrane, because the stock fencing is narrow, and it's narrower than the width of the bed, so it's not ideal, but it's free, so I've got to make use of it because it is a free resource. So I'm ready to start rolling it out, but I don't think it's a one-man job, I think it's a 2-man job. So I'm just going to see how easy it might be to do on my own, and then if it is going to start crushing the plants and things, then I'll have to see if I can get somebody else to come and help me do that. Okay, so I know it looks a little bit wavy and a little bit bodgy, but it should do the trick. I think it's going to work. I ended up having to put some bamboo canes up there just to keep it raised up a little bit. I'm hoping that will help with that. So that's that job done, and I'm definitely not going to be starting the stocks bed today because that was enough to do me in. Okay, I don't know if you can see that over there. I need to just go and grab that and peg that back down. I swear I peg weed membrane down every couple of days. It's so frustrating. I need to learn to to weigh it down better. The end, when they're overlapping each other, they tend not to fly away, but the one that has an open end always flies away, so I need to learn to weigh it down before I do anything, so that I don't have to run around after weed membrane that's flying around in the field. So it's been a few days since I last did any filming, and last week I was talking to you about how excited I am about natural farming processes, and I've been doing lots of research about it over the weekend. And what's really got me started on this over the weekend is when we put the weed membrane back over these beds the other day, I just noticed how lifeless the soil looks. It just looks so dry. It was flooded here the other week, really wet, and it was too wet to rotivate, and now it's almost too dry. So it just doesn't retain water, and the organic matter in it isn't great. So obviously I've been adding compost, but I would like to be able to do all sorts of other things to increase the soil biology, which will in turn increase the water retention and everything, and the pathogen fighting properties of the soil. So this weekend I've been looking into mainly Korean natural farming techniques, and also just being able to create different feeds for the soil, which is going to increase the soil biology. So a more diverse soil biology is going to help ward off those bad fungus and bacteria. So healthy, good for the soil fungus and bacteria is going to outcompete the naughty little fungus and bacteria. So hopefully we can start building the soil biology from here on in. So I'm going to explain to you today how I'm going to start off by doing that. So before we get into it, I just want to put a little disclaimer in there to say that I am extremely new to the concept of Korean natural farming and all of the stuff that I'm going to talk about from now on. So I don't want you to take what I say as gospel. I want you to do your own research if you're going to look into it, or maybe you know about it already. So don't at me if I get it wrong, because I'm still doing my research and everything. So there's lots of resources out there. I've been watching a guy called Chris Trump on YouTube, and also Bear Mountain Farm have been doing a lot of this stuff as well. So one of the concepts of Korean natural farming, KNF, is IMO, which is indigenous microorganisms. And the theory is that you go to an established woodland, a local woodland where you can find indigenous microorganisms, and you collect the microorganisms from the area. And to do that you use cooked rice, or just like partially cooked rice, and you make it in a basket or a box, and you do it in an area where you can see bacterial mycelium or fungal mycelium. So you would go to a spot in a forest where it's very covered in sort of leaf litter and things, and then you would dig down to the soil below, and hopefully you can see fungal and microbial activity in that area, and you would leave it there for a few days, and those microorganisms would colonise the rice and start growing on top of the rice. There's loads of videos on YouTube to show you what a successful collection looks like. So I'm going to have a go at doing that this week. I'm going to have a go at collecting some beneficial microorganisms, and then what you do is there's various methods to cultivate them and then spread them on your field. So you can mix it with soil and put that onto your beds, or you can make a liquid IMO, which is what I think I'm going to do, because then you can spray it onto your soil as like a soil prep thing when the soil is bare, or I think that you can also use it as a foliar feed. So I'm going to have a go at doing those things. And as a byproduct of the IMO, when you're cooking the rice, you can also make lactic acid bacteria. So there's a few videos on that, especially Bear Mountain's video. So I'm going to have a go at also making that lactic acid bacteria. I'll put all of the links to the things that I found useful in my description down below, and you can have a look at those resources and see what you think to it as well. So there's not really any woodland around here at all, so what I'm going to do is have a look. I don't know if you'll be able to see it from here, but just over there is a bit of it's not a woodland at all, it's sort of like just a group of trees. I'm going to have a look down there, so I'll take you with me and see whether we can see any mycelium. So we're here in the alpaca field where my alpacas usually reside, and there's this planting behind me so behind there is an old piggery where the pigs used to be kept. We only have Hector and Cyril now, so we don't have any other pigs, but this seems to be a pretty established group of trees here, so I'm going to have a look in there just to see whether I can see any activity going on in the leaf litter. So this would be the kind of area I think where you would find bacterial or microbiology. You want to look for areas where the microbiology is actively breaking down the material in here. There's a lot of bird poo in here, which is making it difficult for me to see what is going on, and also it's really dry at the moment. We haven't had rain for a while, so I'm not sure whether this area is going to be the right kind of area. So I don't really think that I found any good spots for microorganisms on the farm, so I may have to venture a little further out and have a look at some of the local plantings and see what I can find. I think this one's going to be a bit tricky because we are in a rural area with not many wild habitats. It's very arable around here, so yeah, I'm just going to have to keep thinking of places where I could go and find some microbes. What I'm doing now is I'm just dragging this visqueen over to this area where I tried to get the pigs to rotivate the area, and I'm going to be covering it. But what I wanted to do was put some stuff down here first for the worms and everything to feed on. So what I think I might do is get a wheelbarrow and wheelbarrow the alpaca muck over here and put that down in a layer before I cover it with any tarpaulin or visqueen. So I've added lots of the alpaca poo straw bedding to this area behind me, and I'm not quite finished. I need to add some more to it, but I've run out of the alpaca poo, so I think I'm going to have to go to the main big muck heap to get some more material to put down there. There's quite a lot of nice worms and things in there, so that is looking good. And what I've just started doing now is I've got another pile in my field, because when we first set up this field, I can't remember whether I filmed it for a video that I made last year about starting flower beds from scratch. I can't remember, but anyway, we took this big muck hill that's behind me and shipped it out to the fields to be spread on the fields, and usually Rob saves me some really good stuff from the bottom of the pile. And when we first set up this field, Rob came along with the forklift and he just spread it randomly about the field, and then there was some left over, so we just left it in a pile down here, so that's not been touched for 2 years, I think. So if you look at it, it's amazing stuff. It's really nice and dark coloured, lots of organic matter. So I've just started putting that down on this bed here. There's loads of worms in it and everything, so I hope that's going to be really good for the soil down there. And there's quite a bit of that, so I'm just going to shovel that. Probably will do this full bed here, so I'm going to do that. I've just made an inquiry about having some more compost delivered, because that is my main compost pile over there and there's not much of it left. So I'm going to have 18 tonnes delivered hopefully soon, so we can keep on dressing the beds with lots of compost. I also have just been reminded of something else that I really want to try this autumn, which is planting cover crops. I've just been listening to the No-Till Flowers podcast whilst I've been shoveling this stuff out here, and it reminded me that I want to get excited about cover crops and I need to do my research about them. So what my understanding of cover crops is that they keep feeding the soil when the soil is bare. So soil microorganisms feed off the exudates that plant roots give off, and they have a symbiotic relationship in the soil where they trade nutrients in the soil. So the plant gives the fungi and the bacteria sugars in exchange for things like phosphorus and other plant soluble nutrients. That is what I believe. So if you can keep that cycle going all season round, then that should keep your soil microorganisms happy. I think that is what cover crops are used for, but I'm going to have to do my research and find out what other benefits or disadvantages they also have as well, because there's always a downside to everything. So we'll just have to see by doing a little bit more research what that brings. So it is Wednesday today, and I'm hoping to get this video put online for you tonight. Bit of a long one just because we had a week off last week. I purchased a new computer last week, which was delivered the day before yesterday, and it is already so much easier to edit the videos. The laptop that I was using before just didn't play the videos smoothly, and it took me twice as long to film everything to edit everything, because I kept having to go back and forth to try and figure out what was actually happening on the video. So yeah, it's just going to make life so much easier, and I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks I'm going to do another one of those week-long daily vlogging sessions. So there'll be plenty of chance for you to ask me questions and I can answer them, and I can just show you what I'm getting up to in my daily life as a flower farmer. So at the moment I am just out in the front flower field. It's looking pretty bare at the moment. There's a few weeds popping up in the weed membrane holes, but there's not a lot to do in here. But I'm just going to plant up some Greek cress, because in this bed a couple of weeks ago I planted some what was it that I planted? Corn cockle, I think it was, that had overwintered, and I was really looking forward to having a nice early crop of corn cockle, and I think that the pigeons have picked it all out, so there's none left now, apart from just over there I planted some nigella that had overwintered as well, and they've chosen not to eat the nigella and just take the corn cockle instead. So I've got some Greek cress here that is just sort of like whinging in the tray waiting to be planted out, so I'm going to plant that out in here, and hopefully the pigeons won't take it, and then that will get on nicely in here. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and thanks so much for supporting my channel. I would really love it if you could interact with my videos, like them, comment on them, ask me questions, and share them, because at the moment the YouTube channel is really helping me to pay the bills, because I haven't got a lot of other income coming in at the moment, with us having no flowers and not being able to run workshops and things as usual because of COVID. So you supporting this channel really helps me and helps me to carry on doing what I love. So thanks so much for everybody that has supported me already. And I'm hoping to post 2 videos this week, so I'll be posting this one tonight and another one on the weekend hopefully, which will be a farm tour of all of our acreage that we've got here. I hope, because I'm trying to get Rob to come with me to fly the drone so that we can get some good drone shots, but it's hard to pin that guy down, so hopefully I'll be back with that on the weekend. If not, it'll be something else. The other thing that I just wanted to mention before I go is that I hope you enjoyed all of the chat about the Korean natural farming and the regenerative farming, and I hope there's some of you out there who are as intrigued by it as I am. And I've actually just started brewing some lactic acid bacteria, and I'm hoping to spray that on my crops soon. So that will be another video coming soon. I will be making the lactic acid bacteria and also fermented plant juice and some other Korean natural farming solutions. So stay tuned for some of those recipe style videos to come.